This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Friday happy hour edition of Beach Talk Radio. There was a very special guest joining us tonight on a very hot topic that just came up. So let's get him right on the show. Hot topic, yeah.
And he's the fire chief.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Very good, dear. Very good. There he is.
Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Fire Chief
Good.
Scott Wirth. Scott, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. First time.
Thanks a lot for coming on. Just for a little background for folks.
As Jim would say, set the table.
Last Friday, 1 week ago, the chief got a call from a representative, and you'll correct me if I get any of this wrong, please, from Representative Adam Botana that said that it was coming and it was a bill that he planned to submit to the Florida delegation that would merge the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District in with Bonita Springs. And the bill, or a draft of the bill, has been publicized. It can be edited, or amendments could be made right up until the 30th. And the delegation, the Florida delegation, who you've seen, and probably some of you have probably already written to, was on our website in the story today. So we're trying to get the get all the details from the chief and see where this is going. Go ahead.
So I just want to ask, was last week the first time that you heard about this or talked about it?
Yeah, it was. Just to go back a little bit, right after I took over the chief role, still in the acting position, I went and met with Representative Botana. We already had legislation that they were helping us on the fire station we've been working on for a few years. We had some general conversations because one of the items in the new station was going to be a training tower for our folks. And, Adam had asked, well, why do you need a training tower? Can't you use Bonita's? And we had used it, we use it from time to time, but it's a pretty good distance for our vehicles to leave district and go use that tower. So while we were building the building, we were going to incorporate a training tower for our folks. So we had that conversation, and then he said, well, why don't you guys, and this was after the storm. So he says, well, why don't you guys just merge? And I laughed a little bit because that's a complicated issue. And I said, well, I explained a lot about how each of the districts in the county kind of has its uniqueness. And then I explained how operationally we work together in so many ways. It's already set up countywide where, the closest, fire unit gets sent to the calls, and it doesn't matter the name on the truck. The mission is to get to the customer and, treat them if it's medical, or take care of whatever their problem is. So we had some general conversations. I explained some nuances about how the departments already work together and, in a combined way, to be more efficient. And that was kind of the extent of the conversation. Beyond that, there was never a phone call. Greg DeWitt is the chief at Bonita, for those who don't know. There was never a call from Adam to Greg and I to say, hey, I've got this idea, let's sit down and kick around the different nuances of what it would take or what it would look like. Nothing like that. So it's pretty blindsided Friday evening last week when I got that phone call.
So, Chief, you met with the mayor of Fort Myers Beach today. What was the result of that? Is the town council and the mayor, are they going to get behind your idea to study this?
When I finished my meeting with the mayor, we had a nice meeting, and we didn't talk a whole lot about that, just talking about all kinds of things in general, across the beach and what we're both experiencing with, trying to give people their plans and stuff like that. We just touched on it a little bit at the end, and I had asked him, I said, have you guys had any conversations? And And he said, no, not really. And I asked him if he would do that. And of course he said yes. And, he's going to set us up with, Andy and, and have some conversations on their end. I saw the piece that you had wrote for the comments, I think hopefully the beach, the council will get behind us on this. We work together all the time. I mean, we sat together last week on a building issue, and we sit together. We've been going through emergency management plans. We're back, so we coordinate together on several different things, and I think they'll come together and stand behind us.
So just for people that are watching, get behind you. What is your position? Do you think this is a good idea, or do you want it to be studied?
Right. So I will say, let's start with the bill the way it's written. Flat out, it's a horrible idea.
Okay.
For the people who haven't read that bill. So, and here's why I say that. For the people who haven't read the bill, let me summarize it real quick. The bill basically says October 1, 2024, the district that is Fort Myers Beach Fire, the entirety of its district, which goes all the way to Pine Ridge Road, we cover part of the unincorporated area, that will all be handed over to Bonita. All the assets and liabilities of the Fort Myers Beach Fire District will be handed over to Bonita. The name on the truck and the uniform will stay the same. It'll still say Fort Myers Beach. And both of the district's boards will be dissolved and a new 5-person board will be created. So having not talked to either agency and having no idea if there's any savings in this or if it's going to cost more, there's just way too many questions and not enough answers to even begin to think to get behind something like this.
Okay.
In general, you had mentioned doing a study. So there is a statute that guides how these mergers should take place. And rightfully so, included in that statute, it says there will be a merger plan. Now, a merger plan gets into all the things like pension and payroll and contracts and administration and governance and everything else. And it would make sense that a plan like that existed before something like this was proposed. But the key point and the highlight, the biggest problem in that bill is the fact that the way it's written, this will never hit a ballot. This will never be presented to the voters. It basically will be a vote taken 400 miles away in the halls of Congress in Tallahassee. And that's this district, Bonita, both districts were formed by the voters. And the other part of that legislation, that statute says that if the merger is going to happen after the plan's in place and it's feasible and it makes sense, that it's the voters who have the final say. Mm-hmm. So none of that is incorporated into this bill. And for that reason, you can't stand behind it.
So when you talk about, or when they're talking about a merger and cutting costs, is if they do the study, if you go from 10 commissioners down to 5, that would probably save some. Are there other areas where you think there would be some savings if you guys were to share some administrative positions? Or
some of the comments that float around say, well, keep all the firefighters and get rid of the staff, and that's going to save money.
Well, you can't do that.
Well, no, but let's assume for a minute, Kim, we could. Let's assume, that what that would mean is that if you were to walk into the office of Bonita Springs today, you would see people that are only working 60% of the time, 70% of the time, looking for something to do. Because the reality of it is that there is a real workload in adding 4 more buildings and 15 more vehicles and 50 more people to the operation of Bonita Springs. So obviously it's going to take more staff to continue to manage all of the things that we manage today. So for those reasons, that's why I'm very skeptical. There's no way I could tell you that, yes, this is going to represent a savings. In fact, I think the thing that we really have to look at is, at the end of the day, how do we know it's more economical to move Fort Myers into Bonita? With the absence of a study, that study might show that the operations of Bonita Springs should move into Fort Myers Beach. We don't know that. So we don't know which organization would operate more efficiently than the other.
So the other thing,
again, more questions than answers. Sorry.
Yeah. And no, the other thing that Jenna, I only say her first name, not out of disrespect, just because I'm afraid I'm going to screw up her last name. Jenna Persons and M word, Malaka. She's the chair of the local Florida delegation, and I spoke to her for a while yesterday. She said that there needs to be an economic impact statement as part of this bill. Have you seen that, or have you been involved in putting that together? Because obviously you and Chief DeWitt would be involved in that to prove that it was going to save taxpayer money.
Yes, no, haven't had any part in an economic impact study. And again, that makes sense. It's still just one small piece of the puzzle.
When you talked, when Botana, Representative Botana called you, what did he tell you was the reason that this was just being done a week ago and could be actually turned into the legislature in less than a month?
Yeah, he didn't offer a whole lot. He just said, I think it's better for everybody, because I said, what do you think and what's the reason for this? And I just think it'll be better for everybody. And then I had said, well, can we sit down and talk about it at least? And let me try and understand, where your head is, where you're coming from. My thought process is, okay, he might, I might be able to show him some specifics basically to help him understand better how we operate. And he told me he was out of town for a couple weeks. And I know he's up in Mississippi doing carnival or something. And I don't know, because they're having some committee sessions next week. I don't know if he's doing that, but he appears to be out of town. So.
Okay, so go ahead.
The timeline for this is it's got to be in by the 16th, and then it goes on the 30th.
The paperwork for the bill has to be in on the 16th, and then it goes to the
delegation study, or
I don't know when that she's been asking for it. I don't know if she's gotten it today, but she said she's been asking for it because she's concerned for whether this is a good idea for the residents, as I'm hoping that the rest of the delegation are. If it's going to be a good thing. I mean, what's the point if the millage rate doesn't go down? I mean, what's the point if service goes from 4 minutes to 5 minutes? I mean, how would you even know that without any kind of data? I mean, how do the residents know whether, I mean, everybody's for saving money. No, I mean, even you, right. You said it.
Right. Well, look at private businesses. A lot of times when you see one business buy out another business, they will take certain aspects of it and they'll streamline it. They'll get rid of this branch or that branch and try and find efficiencies in consolidating the services. But if you look at a map, there are no fire stations between any of our districts that are overlapping the other. And it's like, okay, I can close that fire station and get rid of a fire truck and use less people and save all of those costs. There's no less stations to be operated. And, we don't have a ladder truck parked next to their ladder truck. There's no kinds of inefficiencies that I can see on the surface. So if both agencies are gonna take the same amount of people and they're gonna keep operating the way they operate, why take away that home rule? Why what's the gain here? And at the same time, I mean, for Adam to put this bill out and then just, when people say, why are you doing it? He says, well, it's going to save money. I can sit here and say it's going to cost them money. And I'm no more better than he is because I haven't put anything out to say it's going to cost money. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it feels very reckless. And if this was an initiative in last session, why 8 or 9 days before the deadline are you notifying the agencies rather than saying, 6-8 months ago, come to the table and let's talk? It just doesn't make any sense. There's no sensible reason why this is happening like it's happening.
On that topic, he said to me when I talked to him that this has been discussed in the past before. Is that something that to be true with maybe Chief Martin or Chief Love or somebody else?
Now, when he says this has been discussed, so Adam, I finally had a bit of a conversation with him yesterday, and and he said that the meeting that I had with him when I first went down there was us discussing this as if we had collaborated on this and worked out the details. And I gave it a thumbs up as I walked out of his office. We talked about the fire station and funding and the history of it, and asked for help in about a 15-minute meeting. I had Jane, our finance person, with us. So in a 15-minute period, if he is going to hang his hat on the fact that that was the catalyst for this, and he never talked to me again, that's pretty suspect. But that was the last time I sat and talked to him at all. I think I called him a week or two ago, and he did answer. Or let me back up. About a week or two before this all came up to be, and thanked him for assisting us with the state grants that we just received. And that was, it was a short conversation, but it was pleasant, and appreciate your help and everything else. And then that was it. Never during that time. He could have told me 2 weeks before, hey, I'm working on drawing something up. He just, we had our pleasantries and hung up the phone.
So Chief, let's talk about the money, the 14 million that you got for a second. So when the governor's office or Kevin Guthrie's office sent out a release a week or 10 days ago, you had 14 million of the release. Fort Myers Beach got nothing on that sheet, and the town was in an uproar. Like, where's our money? We asked for X amount of dollars, and turned out it came in a different way on Monday, and a letter of this and that and the other thing. But when I sent Adam a text and I said, hey, nothing for Fort Myers Beach. He said, what do you mean? You got 20 million and the whole thing. I don't think he understood that Fort Myers Beach and the Fort Myers Fire District were different. Do you think any of this has to do with the $14 million that you guys got? Because there was a long list of other municipalities that got money.
I don't think so. There seems to be a disconnect between the folks we're talking to on the grants and emergency management and the and the local delegation. But that it's puzzling. I mean, like you said, a week before we get awarded the 14 million, to help us get going on the fire station replacement, and then for the revenue that was lost to the 40% reduction in property values. So, in one hand, the state's saying, hey, we're here with you. And then in the next, a week later, a different, the representatives are saying, turns out the 14 million may have really been for Bonita, it just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, you've seen the bill, you've read the bill and had the conversations, and I think you get what's missing in order to make this a valid, a valid bill.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about merging into Bonita and then Bonita merging into you, what is the likelihood of that other scenario? Or were you just throwing that out, like no way?
I was just throwing it out as an example. I mean, they're a much bigger organization. And that's really one of the other things that's interesting. I know we're both in Adam's district, but so are all the other islands, and there's been nothing proposed out there. But the reality of it is that, we border Bonita Springs. We also border Iona McGregor, and we're far less similar to Bonita than we are to Iona. So for example, us and Iona McGregor, we have, the same, we're both in Florida retirement system. Bonita has a private pension plan, which, throws up one of the big, what happens here. So they have a very different pension plan, and we don't know where do the firefighters go into that plan? Do they stay in Florida retirement system? Why do you run two different pension systems? Should Bonita Springs firefighters come into Florida retirement system? And that's just a few questions on the pensions. We do so like I had mentioned, automatic aid, meaning that the 911 system, when a fire comes in, structure fire on the beach, or anywhere in the county for that matter, it gets 4 fire engines, a ladder truck, a command staff, and an ambulance. So those resources, any first alarm fire in our area is going to include Iona McGregor or Bonita Springs. Most of the time, because of travel distances and stuff like that, we work way more with Iona McGregor than we do Bonita Springs coming in to assist. So the question really becomes, why these 2 agencies and why now?
So I came to one of the fire district board meetings, and you guys really praised the folks that are in charge of your financials. I mean, like, the financials are solid. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I joined the department in 2017. I did my career at City of Fort Myers. I joined City in 91 and then retired in 17 during Irma and came to the beach. So that was my orientation. Let's pack up and go to shelter because Irma's coming. So, and during that time, Chief Love had been here about a year. So you interviewed Chief Love enough to know that the man is analytical and really set the stage for for the agency, established or made sure that our capital sustainment plans for replacing trucks and and stations and whatnot was solid. So if you look at our reserves, you go, wow, they look really healthy. But a good portion of those reserves are allocated to projects that'll come up in the next year, 1 to 5 years. So, we got ahead of our game. We had to catch up on vehicle replacement and stuff like that. And it really got us, squared away and on our game. But the reality of it is you've seen at the meetings, and she's the, she's really the backbone of the organization. But, it's a tip of the hat to her because, Gene's 15, 16, 17 years here, and clean audits every year. So it started before Chief Love, but he definitely helped square things away and really tighten things up. And Chief Martin continued that, and I have no intention of changing it because it's a well-run organization.
And one of the things that I thought wasn't unfair was the turnover. I wasn't here. That was unfair. Was the turnover in the fire chief seat. I saw Chief Martin last weekend, and I kind of understand now why he stepped away. It had a lot to, just my opinion, had a lot to do with the storm and shit people saw that they can't unsee. And that takes a while to sit back and figure out. And it seems like the beach loves you and the council loves you and the commission loves you and things are humming along, and you're trying to kind of not wind down, but minimize what was going to be a big building into a smaller building and put it in the right spot, and not, make it as big as it was. So it seems like there might even be a savings there if there's a land swap with the town. So I thought that was a little bit of an unfair shot with the turnovers that Representative Botana said, but maybe 3's too many in his eyes.
Well, the reality of it is I'm the third and I just started, but you could say it's 3 chiefs in 4 years, and that sounds really bad. Or you could say it's 3 chiefs in 10 years, and it's not that bad. I was if you go and look at Jacksonville's website, they list out the history of their fire chiefs, and from 1981 to today, there's one fire chief with a tenure more than 4 years. And that gentleman had 7 years, and he moved on to go be the leader at the Florida State Fire Academy. Also a well-run organization, but this is a job that wears on you.
Sure.
I've worked for a lot of chiefs over my career, and I had gray hair coming into it, but a lot of them didn't, and they either get gray pretty quick, or they
or it falls
lose it
out
altogether because of stress, right? So I was fortunate. I just came into it with the gray hair.
So I guess you could also look at it like X number of town managers, and a town that was wrecked and is struggling financially, and same thing could apply to a city with some permitting issues, if you know what I mean. I mean, how do you know that's not next?
Well, yeah, and that's true. Let me go back to Chief Martin for a second, though. I'm glad you got a chance to talk to him, because he left for personal reasons, and I use the expression a lot of times with HR issues that somebody's right to privacy exceeds our desire to know. And what I can say emphatically is he gave everything to the town and the department to navigate us through the storm and the days after and the weeks after and the months after. So I just want to take a second to tip my hat to everything he did for the agency and the beach and the people. So the fact that he felt like he needed to step away, I respect that.
Yeah, and every time we had him on the show, just such a nice guy and so loved the community, but he loved what he did, and he really had a passion, felt a passion for it, and a lot of stuff fell on those broad shoulders of his, and so for whatever reason, he, amazing person.
And I think if that storm doesn't hit, he's probably still the chief right now, but what do I know? Yeah, that's my opinion. So what happens, Chief Wirth, to the ambulance service? For folks that don't know, Fort Myers Beach has its own ambulance service and Bonita doesn't. How does that get rectified in a merger?
We really don't know. So just a little bit of history. Going back to the 40s, might have been the 50s, don't hold me on it. But before there were any ambulances in Lee County, Fort Myers Beach was the first to bring a transport system to anywhere in the county, long before Lee County EMS came to be and started transporting people to the hospital. I believe before that it might have been done by the funeral homes or something like that, the older systems. So it's steeped in our tradition. It's been here a long time. There's handwritten ledgers on the wall in my office in a glass case of old board meetings where things were enacted. Today there's 3 agencies that provide transport throughout the county. There's Lee County EMS, who does the lion's share of it, and there's Lehigh Acres and Fort Myers Beach as the 2 other agencies that provide the rest of the transport services. We work, our license to transport is called a COPCN. And we work as a child agency to the county. So they ultimately approve that COPCN in each renewal cycle. In that COPCN, it talks about any changes to the status of the organization, the district and whatnot. I don't know that it was intended to, address only if the district doesn't exist, but it says in there if the district ceases to operate, then the COPCN expires.
Oh, so it sounds like it goes to Lee County then, if your district doesn't.
Yeah, by default, it would have to fall to Lee County. Now the new district may try to apply and go through that process. But I don't know how that would vet out.
So, I did watch the Bonita Springs Fire Control Commission Board, whatever it's called, this week, and they didn't mention it one bit. They didn't say a single thing about it. The chief didn't say anything. The board didn't say anything, which I thought was slightly peculiar, that they wouldn't bring, like, this is a huge thing. They just said nothing.
Yeah. So after that last weekend, Friday afternoon, so after I got the phone call, Greg got the phone call from Adam, and then of course Greg and I talked after that and kind of, what the heck's going on type conversation. So then we got together Monday morning and had the chief at San Carlos, Chief Camberry, is the head of he's the president of Lee County Chiefs Association. So he came and joined us, and we had some other folks and basically talked about, what's happening here and, what are the potentials and possibilities? How do we address this, go about it? Because it's just kind of like, you pull the pin and throw the grenade and close the door, and we're all stuck trying to figure out how to handle this.
Have you had any conversations with any members of the delegation to try and get their feel for how they would vote? Because my understanding of the process is on the 30th, when the delegation is there, if he gets 50% of the delegation or 50
Plus
plus one, then that moves the bill on to the House committee, and then it just goes through the legislature like a regular bill. So what is your take from some of the other folks?
I've put out my feelers. I've reached out to our local senator early part of the week, and I had not heard back from him. So Wednesday evening, I reached out to the two senior senators that are in our region, and have not heard back from either of them yet. I did Senator Pasadomo's office. They passed my email to somebody in Tallahassee. So I got a phone call today, and they basically took down the same information I had in my email, but I haven't talked to those senators. Talked to some of the other representatives who, like you said, are trying to figure out what the heck's going on, and where's the rest of the information and whatnot. So there's a few of them I haven't talked to, or other folks in the area haven't talked to. But for the most part, most of them seem surprised by it. So Adam, when I spoke with him on that Friday a week ago, I also asked him, I said, is there any other local delegation that are looking at their special districts? And he named Representative Esposito, who she covers Estero, San Carlos, South Trail, and Lehigh. So basically everything from Bonita up to city limits. And he said he thought she was working on something. Now that flushed out on Monday, and she emphatically said she was not working on something. And she explained to Chief DeWitt, Greg at Bonita, that that she had a conversation with Adam and explained that if the districts were in favor of it, she would support him. But she emphatically said she was not interested in supporting an imposed merger. So that's what we had as of Monday.
Is it your gut feeling that this is a done deal?
What do you mean?
I don't think I'll be highly disappointed if this bill is written as a done deal. That it steals the will of the voter before anything else. I mean, yes, there's no facts and figures presented, but if this makes it all the way through legislation the way it's written, that would be very disappointing. Do I think there's a chance that Adam's going to pull this back in some way and say, you know what, I've rethought it and I'm going to study it and go through all the proper steps? I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to get pushed until somebody else says yes or no. So that's kind of where I think it's going to fall. Now on the local delegation, in talking to all the different people, there was a question about whether, even if the local delegation doesn't support it, can Adam still push it past them to Tallahassee? And at first, I understood it to be that yes, he could. That they could basically support it, not support it, but it wouldn't prevent him from taking it. I understand now that unless the legislature waives the rules, which they can do, the rules would require the local delegation to support it.
Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely. Yeah, I think Jenna kind of made it sound like it's kind of possible, but highly unlikely because, if this person does, then, why won't the next person do it? You're there to work together. You're there to help each other. And that would just be like it'd be like a technical foul or something. It's just something that, you bring something, you usually bring something forward when you think you have the support. And, that's the one thing that worries me, I don't live on the beach, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's maybe not a done deal, but sometimes these things come forward because, you got a good head count.
So people are asking about who they can write to. So can you shed some light on who people should reach out to, send emails to, besides showing up for the meetings?
Yeah, so if you search Florida Legislature lead delegation, It comes up, and we'll put it on the website. I'm not sure if Jennifer put that up yet or not. I think Ed, did you put a link to their delegation
Yeah.
page?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
all
actually,
their contacts are there.
I actually have all their emails on our website. So if anyone
Yeah.
wants to go and click on the story that we ran today, it's on our website. All their emails are right there. And, it's just a question of whether you want to send your note to just the chair or everybody.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think that obviously you want the public to come to your meeting on the 18th at Diamond Head at 10 o'clock to voice their opinion if they're interested in this issue. I'm sure it's going to be a topic on your agenda.
Yes, it is on the agenda. So, and at that point, it'll get proper discussion, and I hope or believe that the board will take a position at that time. My hope is also that Benita is going to look to take a position on this at some point before the 30th as well. Um, it seems like it would be, it's got to be an effect to them, whether it's a net positive or net negative. It's going to be an impact of some kind on their organization. So, hopefully there's some kind of position between now and the 30th. Yeah, I drew a blank.
Okay.
So you asked about me talking with the local delegation. It does concern me a little bit, honestly, that I haven't heard from the senator in our area. Reached out on Monday. Now I do know they're doing special sessions, committees, whatnot, but this can't not be on his radar at this point. So I hope I hear from him soon, and if it will make me nervous if I don't hear from any of our local senators, hear back from any of our local senators before the 30th.
What kind of impact is this having on your staff too? I mean, they're hearing all of this, and that can't feel good.
No, it definitely serves to mess with their psyche. These days, met with my whole team on Tuesday evening. We all got together and either in person or online, and had some conversations. We have a professional group of people. They're gonna be out there. They're gonna be serving the community. They the community's not going to be affected. Now, my folks, obviously, they're having the conversations and they're what ifing the heck out of this like anybody would. So it does have an impact. I can tell you from my side, I haven't worked on the new fire station in a week. So, it definitely threw a bunch of extra workload in, but we respond to emergencies. That's what we do.
So part also of this proposal is that if there's a new commissioners board, there'll be 5 commissioners and only one representative from Fort Myers Beach. So the beach will have less representation on a board, correct?
Yes. Now what you're saying is, unless you've seen an updated draft, that is just verbal, right? So the original draft does not say anything about, how many from Fort Myers Beach. So in my discussion with Adam yesterday, he did say they were going to write in some language that guaranteed that the responders wouldn't lose their job. They were going to write in one Fort Myers Beach representative or board member out of the 5. And he did say that he's getting a lot of pushback on not sending this to the voters. So
okay.
Hopefully, he thinks better, of that, and hopefully he goes the whole way and says, you know what, I'm just going to follow statute 189 and decide and change the language to do all the proper steps to carry out a merger, and then those steps are done. It might not be imposed. It might be something that everybody understands once it's all vetted out.
Right. And the Fort Myers Beach Fire District is 74 years old. What's one more year when you have all the data and information? If it saves money, then it makes sense. And nobody's going to argue with that. But when you take a 74-year-old fire department and decide it's time for it to go away and not have any data or reasons why, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't seem like it's the logical thing to do. But I mean, what's one more year? Nobody is saying don't do it. They're just saying let's do a study to see if it makes sense. Maybe it'll make sense. Maybe it'll make great sense.
Right. And he hasn't claimed that we're a department in crisis or anything of that nature, because we're not. We're operating fine, you know. And here's the thing. You know, I was talking with some of my team today, and they brought up a point. They said, you know, in the hours after the storm, you know, because 3:30 in the morning, I'm coming up San Carlos Boulevard when the weather broken up, and I come up to emergency lights, and it's Jacksonville unloading their USAR equipment, bulldozers and stuff, to start pushing it onto the island. And we started doing, you know, we were getting ourselves, you know, back together and getting out of shelter, getting back to district and doing the things that we do. And as soon as we got to the USAR teams, we started embedding our people. And the USAR members were like, oh, thank God, some local knowledge, you know, without street signs, you know, we knew benchmarks, we knew, you know, we knew what streets we were going to and needed to get up and down. We knew the nuances, we knew where Mrs. Smith was. And the crisis areas. So, you know, there's no reason to rush to break up what's working fine. Well, there may be no reason to do anything with it, but we don't know that yet.
So wouldn't it make a lot of sense and help out if the town council approved the motion to support your idea for a study and then push that on to the delegation? Wouldn't that have a lot of, wouldn't that be very helpful, or have some, it would have some, you know, would be, what am I looking for here? It would have a lot of
Some
juice.
clout.
Yeah, it would have some clout when you got all 5 council members saying, wait a second, we should study this.
And who would do that?
Yes.
They have a meeting Monday. They can make
No, I mean, who would study it? Who would do the study and pay for the study?
Well, there are agencies that do that. So it also says in the statute, that's a good question. It says when you have a merger plan, that the merger plan is to be paid for. It says by the general government body who proposes the merger. So in this case, it would be the state. So, you know, if we backed up and said, okay, we're going to do a study, and if it's viable, then we'll do the merger plan. Typically a consultant would be employed by the state, and you know, both agencies would participate in it. You know, and here's the thing, that study would probably go much bigger, because it would look at the 911 system and the automatic aid agreements, and all the other things that affect both of our districts from the bordering sides that aren't us two touching. So
And
in this case, it would probably be the state.
And you may not know this answer, but if they were to do a study, or maybe you do, maybe you've studied other studies, is there a benchmark as to how much better it would have to be to kind of, you know, it has to reach a certain level to be like, yes, this is a possible go?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, but I don't know. You know, a 10% increase in efficiency or a 10% savings.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a hard, you know, a number or a, you know, a go, no go line there, but it's a good question.
She kind of rolled over my question about the town council support. What do you think about that?
You know, I think it's important. It's important that an agency, because they're a partnering agency, you know, we're government to government, we're two agencies, we work cohesively together. So, you know, if they feel like we have that working relationship and it's not dysfunctional, then I don't know why they would do anything but support us. But more importantly, like I said, I think you say, okay, should the town stand up and support the fire department? I think it's more about the town standing up and supporting the community, because at the end of the day, the community built us, and it should be the community that takes us apart. And the community, if they're going to take us apart, merge us, basically take away that small, the hometown department, they're entitled to be educated. And it's the state's job to provide that information so they can make an educated choice. So yes, I would hope that the town would say, this isn't dysfunctional. We're working well together. There's no reason to rush this. So we support this bill being set aside or corrected or changed, but not like it is. So yeah, I hope on Monday that they're willing to do that. The thing that's interesting as I was talking about it, think about this, and I know the state is trying to get less special districts for whatever reason, but I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, why is the town incorporated? And do you have thoughts on why the town incorporated when it did?
Yeah, it would. They wanted to stop the big buildings, and when Diamond Head came in, that was where it all kind of fell into place.
So in general, in principle, when local areas of a bigger government don't feel like they're being represented, they have options. So if incorporation allows you to have a say in your community, why the initiative to take apart these smaller agencies? And here's the thing. If nothing else, let's say there's no study on our two departments. Is this good? Is this bad? Wouldn't you expect that the state has on the shelf somewhere a general study of districts that says generally taking small entities and forcing them all together makes it more efficient? Wouldn't you think there's a general study to that nature that Adam would at least tie to this legislation in the absence of a personalized study? It just doesn't, this could be way better than it is for what we're seeing.
What do you want the residents to do in the next week or 2 weeks before we get to the 30th?
If the residents will reach out to their local delegation and just ask them to follow the statute, follow all the steps, do this the right way. Don't impose something that could turn out that, this is two sides of a coin and you're flipping a coin at this point. It could end up costing more. It could end up costing less. It could end up increasing or decreasing response times. There's a way to know so that you're not chancing it. You're not taking a risk. And these people are in the offices they're in because the community chose them. And write to these people, call them and say, follow the rules that you have for doing this the right way. And then let's see where it goes from there.
Did we leave anything out, Chief?
No, I don't think so. I do appreciate you guys having me on and covering it as extensively as you are. It's important. And, and I think how this goes, the rest of the districts will go as far as whether it just gets, hammered through by the folks in Tallahassee, or if the people in the affected districts have the final say. So I think it's important that this is done right this time, so that any more initiatives like this that come behind it also are done the right way.
All right, Chief. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you on the 18th, and have a great weekend.
You too, guys.
All right. All right, everybody. That was Fire Chief Scott Wirth. And, I did want to say one thing. I don't want to make it seem like we're picking on Adam, but he did do a lot of stuff for Fort Myers Beach when the storm came through. He was there for a lot of things. He was there when people needed the Starlink stuff, and he always called and said, "What do you guys need?" And I know he was there for Dan, even before Dan was the mayor, because of that cockeyed setup that they had before Dan took over as the mayor. But he was there for a lot. This one just seemed to come out of the blue without any real detail.
It's picking on. It's just
it kind of sounds like when I am. And he did say he's coming on the show on the 28th to talk about this and other things. So, and he did call and answer a lot of the questions that I had. And Jonathan Martin didn't return my calls, and Tiffany Esposito didn't. So I mean, I didn't call everybody. It's fine for them not to call me back. I expect that, but when they don't call the chief back, it is a little bit worrisome that he doesn't. I mean, he's a somebody and I'm a nobody, so it's a little bit worrisome. But so you are allowed to submit. And I'll post the email addresses again at the top of our Facebook page after the show. You're allowed to submit your comments. You're allowed to go to the meeting on the 30th, and you'll get a card to fill out just like you would at the town council meeting or the county board meeting. They don't know how long they're going to allow you to speak. It might be a minute and a half. Who knows? It might be 2 minutes. I guess it all depends on how many speakers they have. But this is one of those times where you really should get involved in what's going on. I mean, if it's a 74-year-old fire department, what's one more year if you can get all the data that says it one way or the other?
Saying that they're going to listen to the people, then that's your opportunity to speak up and say, what your piece is. And I would think the town council, because they're representing the people of the town of Fort Myers Beach too, if that's the will of the people, that they would follow that and make a statement.
For everything I've seen, they have a great relationship. They're getting ready to swap land so it's better for the town. I don't know. It's better for the town, and it's better for the fire district. And the chief had plans to move the training center and the home building off the island in case there was another storm. So just get involved. If you're interested in this issue, you should get involved, and we'll post the email address for all of the folks in the delegation. The whole process, I didn't know anything about the delegation until this whole thing started happening. Then you're like, wow, you can go to this meeting on the 30th, and they have it's like from 9 to 5, and they talk about bills, and they hear representatives from the county come up, and the school district and the hospital. Everybody goes up to speak.
Stuff has come, you hear about it when it's in Tallahassee, and you're like, whoa, I have something to say. And it's like, well, you should have said something earlier. It's like, I didn't really know. If you don't, I mean, you really need to stay. It is hard to stay on top of all of the stuff and have a real job and conduct yourself. So, I mean,
I think the reason he knows about it is because they post the public information in the newspaper, and who the hell reads the newspaper anymore? I mean, there needs to be more ways to push that out. I think it's interesting.
Well, there's a meeting for you to go to now.
I think it's just interesting to see how the whole process works in the legislature like that, about how they, the bill starts at the local delegation, and if they vote on it there, it goes up to the committee and the whole thing, and they're not up there forever like these jamokes are in Washington, where they can't get their heads out of what.
Was encouraged after the whole, what was it, Senate Bill 2508, when Captains for Clean Water got everybody together and they went up there. I mean, that was a big fight that I don't think others were prepared for. And it made it through. It made a difference. And so, I mean, I know sometimes it's easy to get, cynical about, my voice doesn't matter. But when everybody gets together and the voices are loud enough, it does work.
And, everybody that was watching what was going on with the comprehensive plan, that's a great example of it. The community was loud and clear on what they wanted. And that town council and the LPA, it's like it was 100%. They listened to the community, and they decided the way that the community told them to decide, which is, if you want this to be delayed for a year, the only way is for these elected officials to hear your voice. They answer to that. When they see a bombardment, something that's heartfelt, something that's not like one of those letters that everybody just kinds of copies and pastes.
Still, I mean, members do speak. Not everybody can take off from work to go to these meetings either. So
even the emails, I forwarded all the comments from the story today to them, just so they're getting it from every single angle. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to do a study. If it saves money, everybody's all for saving money. So.
Well, I don't think I would agree with that you need a study to make a decision. Otherwise, how do you know? I mean, how do you know?
So Adam's supposed to come on the show on the 28th, and we'll see how things are going. That's like 2 days before the 30th. So that'll be perfect timing. He'll be back from his fair or his carnival that he does. That's his business, right? That's what his business is.
For him talking about it.
Yeah. So, all right. So
He was in
tomorrow,
boats.
I think his family is. Tomorrow, Dave Nussbaum is going to be on the show. Finally, back from Wisconsin. He was at his first Murph meeting this week, which was another humdinger. So we'll talk about that. Chris Kemp from Chasing Denver and Steve Larson from Sun and Fun Rentals. Another business is opening back up on Fort Myers Beach. So that'll all be tomorrow. Walk around in the morning, bike around on Sunday. And we thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to the chief for coming on the show. And we will see you all tomorrow live from Wahoo Willie's at 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.